Well, hello again, Steve here. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about how the old saying, we are never going to be a prophet in our own town, certainly would ring true from my experience, although I'll never be a prophet anywhere, but, but just the idea of it, what we can learn from that saying, I think is very, very true. And it's also, I think, important for us to acknowledge the truth of that, and I hope to be able to make the case for that. Now, just to use a few tidbits of anecdote, which may or may not be valuable. Myself, for example, I'm not a huge achiever in life, but I've achieved a few things. I mean, I've written 7 books, probably 1,500 videos, raised a family and a bunch of things like that, and I've made some pretty accurate predictions. I mean, I was one of the few who didn't write off to the verge of predicting a Trump win. Oh, many moons ago now, isn't it? 2015. And on a lot of those things, I have never received any sort of a curious, even so much as a curious investigation by those who I know quite well as to how I did that. Like, in fact, when I was mocked back then, that's gone away. I mean, people are funny that way. Many people, almost to a person, everybody who's close to me has not read my books. I mean, I had a conversation with a family member just a few days ago, and this individual was kind of lecturing me on theology, and obviously never read my books, because my books, they're health books, and I believe that I might not call it theology in the books, but it is theology. Mosquitoes here. Yeah, I lay out pretty closely what it is, that how I see things, right? But the reason I think this is important, this little anecdote, is, and to acknowledge that people close to us are not really going to acknowledge, to our satisfaction, to our ego satisfaction anyway, our achievements in life. The reason that's important is because if that's what we're looking for, we're probably going to be sorely disappointed. And therefore, I think in our inner Genie journeys, our important journeys, our fundamental journeys in life, I think it's really important to aim for something that's bigger than us, to work for the cause of things that are bigger than us. And I think this is one of the reasons why the concept of God is so universally valuable to so many people. Because God, when we conceive of God, which by the way is very rational, and very logical and rational, and I can get into that at another time perhaps, but not now. The reason that's so important is because it puts something into our minds and hearts which is bigger than our individual comforts, right? Because we all know that when we aim for the satisfaction of our physical and emotional needs, there never seems to be an end. There never seems to be a satisfaction there. Whereas when we aim for something bigger and we get connected with something bigger, while there's no end to that either, it's a well of satisfaction. It's like a huge lake that we swim in, which buoys us up and gives us a purpose for what it is that we're doing. And especially when we see that what it is that we're doing is helping us to continue to readjust and continue to recalibrate our focus on what it is that we're doing towards that. And I mean, this is true in our relationships, the relationships we go for. It's true for our labor of love that we go for, and how we can, and it can be any labor of love pretty much, as far as I've experienced. Throughout my life, I've changed jobs so many times I've lost count. And for the longest time it was, this job isn't quite right. I got to get another job to satisfy me somehow. But what I realized at a certain point is the job itself never satisfies me. It's how I see the job in relation to what it is that I fundamentally stand for in life. And when I can get an alignment, even a partial alignment to that, it becomes much more satisfying and less burdensome. The same job which previously was burdensome, is no longer as burdensome. Mosquitoes. Yeah, so I mean, that's a few comments, not very much, no real specifics, a few anecdotes once again. But once again, our inner genie journeys are about helping us to take actions and meaningful actions, which can result in us having a better quality of life, but actually making a difference in our lives and the lives of our loved ones. And I would say that from my experience, expecting others to acknowledge me and relying on that as a well of satisfaction, I would be sorely disappointed if I was to continue to do that. Because like I say, I've done a few things in my life and very few people really acknowledge it, including people who are extremely close to me, family members. I'll write a book, 400 or 500 pages, and they don't read it. It's really, really quite bizarre. I never would have thought of that really, but it brings true the old adage, you're never going to be a prophet in your own town. And that might be the reason. I mean, and maybe it's telling us that, and you don't want to be, right? You don't want to hope to be, because it's not going to happen. So, just a few comments on that, and hopefully it's helpful. Talk again soon. Bye for now.